Cool.
Okay, this is Girl Pictures by Justine Curlin. She's my artist, and I'm going to be talking about some pictures from this book. So you can pass it around. Okay. This is my Y art presentation entitled Progress by Picture. And then it's just... Okay. So my artist, Justine Curlin, she is a photographer, and more specifically someone who engaged in staged photography, or staging her models in a way to convey a deeper meaning. It involves incorporating directorial elements into photography. And though it existed since the beginning of photography, it wasn't really set apart as a genre until the 80s and 90s. And then about Girl Pictures, it is a series of pictures depicting runaway teenage girls. And that is taken from her experience as a teenage runaway, which I think is important to note because these pictures have some fantastical elements, and so it's important to realize they come from a real place. This is Eric Kaplan. He is a writer and a director. You would know him from Big Bang Theory, The Simpsons, Rick and Morty, and so much more. And I chose this article, 5 Theses on Creativity, in which he states that art simply refers to those aspects of our lives that can be suffused and transformed by creativity. And I think that encapsulates his overall message that creativity is ever-changing in itself and of the world around it. It has the capability to dismantle everything and then entirely reinvent it. And I find Curlin's work to be very reminiscent of that, as she tackles very sound concepts like femininity and then restructures them to bring out the truth, and exemplifies the raw messiness and overall uniting force that is girlhood. And so, to demonstrate that, I first have Toys R Us. I think the most intriguing part of this picture is the way that these girls are staged. They're in a sort of embrace where one's braiding the hair of the other, and the other is just sitting there enjoying the other's company. And that's all occurring in a very boring place. It's a parking lot. And I think that really brings light to how the power of the female bond holds power over mundane things. And then another thing to note here is that they're positioned under the words Toys R Us, which is another callback to femininity for so long having been perceived as a woman being cast in a very doll-like role. These girls aren't very doll-like, they're very ideal, from their wardrobe to that conspicuous bottle. They are more the realistic girl. And so to contrast that, I described the last one as being realistic. This one is much more fantastical. You likely won't see two girls picking leeches off of each other and a magical sort of lake. I think that magical feeling is added to by the somewhat deep depth of field in which this location seems to go on forever. Curlin has curated a world of these girls' own. And here, I find it very interesting that these girls are calm, they're unperturbed. One is picking leeches off of the other before her own. And that goes back again to how that sense of caring is at the core of femininity, even though it's often disregarded in the traditional conception. Another thing about this is that I think it reflects on the limbo of the teenage years. There's sort of an entrapment between childhood and adulthood, a time where you may be expected to have reached adult-like maturity, but you still have that reckless freedom of youth. And so the dreamy, youthful appeal of this photo really allows absurdity and nostalgia to act synonymously. And then this last photo, Armadillo Burial, it contrasts the two others, which I said fosters a sense of warmth and sometimes recognition. This one, I would say, is instantly perceived as kind of gross. There's a bunch of girls burying a dead animal. And the interactions here are cool to look at. Some are comforting each other, some are standing apart, and then the two bravest are actually burying it. This is the greatest role reversal that Curlin has really posed in the pictures I've shown, as it casts these girls in a sort of dystopian, abandoned world in which they play the Huckleberry Finns and the boys of the Lord of the Flies. They're in these dirty, rugged clothes. And so at the surface, it presents a dystopia, but it's really a utopia where the world is run by girls. And that's not something you get to see a lot. I find it very cool. And so to conclude, I have another quote from Kaplan, which is that a different way of talking can suddenly make our world seem new. And I think Carolyn does an excellent job of that in her work, through putting these girls in these new conditions. And though in recent years, the society's understanding of femininity has evolved, I think it's really work like this that push society towards that.
So remember, you can call on people, and audience, remember, I expect you, and we should expect to each other, to offer compliments, questions, comments, because there's a lot to react to with this piece, so I'm curious to know what you think, audience.
Yeah.
I think that you were very, very well spoken. You seemed very prepared. I was following what you were saying. It was really interesting to listen to. And then my question is, how did you find her?
I got the book as a Christmas gift last year, and it's my favorite possession. I looked through it so many times. I love it. Yeah.
That was actually my question, just how you stumbled upon this one. It's really cool.
You touched on a lot of really deep ideas related to gender theory. So, femininity, the raw messiness of girlhood, and taking what is the everyday or mundane and seeing it with a creative eye to make it something new. So I thought that was a really deep, led to some really deep and insightful interpretations of the painting, or the photographs, I should say. And you also were able to connect visual elements and the symbolism of each piece, which I thought was really well done. And you were right on time, about 5 minutes. Nice job.
I really liked how you picked a more recent artist, not one from 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah, so remember the limitation was the year 2000, so this one got right up there. And this is amazing too, because just the way that people are dressed and everything, it reminds me of when I was a teenager in the late 90s. And so at first glance, before you look at some of the more disturbing details in each one of the pieces, it just kind of looks like everyday life. And as you look closer, you start to see the disturbing, the grotesque, and you unpack the meaning of all that very nicely in the presentation. So, nice job. All right, thank you very much.